going to come in for free.
If you believe it or not, you actually can get these things for free.
That's correct. Along with a small equipment package of Umezawa's Jit, Batter Skull, and Sword of Fire and Ice, 4 Caracas, 4 Wastelands, 4 Schadenports, along with some planes.
And then on the other side of the table, we have Nick Morehead, who's playing Merfolk. He actually is playing a bit of a throwback here. He has Standstill, a card that's fallen out of favor in, was a big part of Merfolk in like 2009, 2010. Sort of fallen by the wayside, but he's bringing it back here. He's mono blue. We've had some blue black and then some mono blue lists. He's just straight blue. 4 Curse Catcher, 4 Silver Gill Adept, 2 Phantasmal Image, 3 Coral Helm Commander, 4 Master of the Pearl Trident, 4 Lord of Atlantis, and 2 Marrow Regery. A main deck Jit, Force of Will Daze, 2 Spell Pierce, 4 Vial, 12 4/4 mana, Mutavault and Wasteland being the non-basics.
Of course, as usual.
So we're going to see white creatures versus blue creatures duke it out for legacy supremacy.
And in my experience, Patrick, white reigns supreme.
Yes.
Well, we will see.
Well, the Merfolk deck is a lot worse at, its strength is not coming from brawling against other creature decks on the ground. Strength is definitely against like combo decks or, blue-based decks where the island walking themes of the deck matter. Also, we are going to have a trivia question here for 3 free months of premium.
And I believe it's your turn to give the trivia question.
Well, I know that you're in arrears to me, currently 1 trivia question, but we can resolve that later.
Okay. I just want to make sure that everyone knows at home that it is your turn to give the trivia question.
Okay.
Looking at the deck list and looking how the games could play out, the thing that makes Merfolk a little bit different than, other aggressive decks is that because it has so many lords, its creatures actually can get larger. They can all turn into 3/3s plus 4/4s, all that stuff. One of the things that's not going to work out here that normally is in favor for Merfolk is its island walking.
Yep.
Legacy is a format that has a lot of blue decks, of course. This particular deck does not have any blue in it. It is mono white with 9 planes, a bevy of non-basic lands as well. So his creatures will be able to be blocked. The creature superiority likely goes to Nick, but Stoneforge Mystic plus Batter Skull is something that Merfolk is not very good at beating.
Yeah. So this is a turn 1 Aether Vial, and this is a huge deal for a number of reasons if this is able to resolve. One is obviously the efficiency that it adds. Two, Nick has a lot of permission in his deck, which Vial circumvents. And 3, Nick also has Standstill in his hand. So if that Vial were to land, he would be then unable to stick a Standstill. So he's going to force it for a myriad of reasons.
We're going to see a Silver Gill Adept.
Revealing a Master.
Master of the Pearl Trident.
And the Curse Catcher in for 1.
So ideally for Nick, if Ben does not play anything too threatening this turn, he'll be able to land a Standstill and a Mutavault as well as one of the other cards in his hand. So Ben's going to have something relatively good this turn to affect the board.
I'm surprised.
And that's not so bad.
That's not so bad. 2/1 First Striker, very good in the world of 2 toughness attackers.
Correct.
I'm a little surprised he didn't land the Standstill last turn. It would be one thing if Ben had cards like Mutavault or Mistress Factory in his deck that could trump underneath a Standstill, but that Curse Catcher uncontested can actually just win the game on its own.
Correct.
So I think I would have in next position. I think I would have fired it off there, or I would have pitched it to Force of Will. Either one or the other.
Sure. The Spell Pierce doesn't really do a ton either.
Sure. Yeah.
He doesn't have very many good targets. Swords of Plowshare is 1 mana spell. Not really going to work all that great. As we see Master of the Pearl Trident and a Mutavault come into play.
Still not under a position to attack.
Sarah Avenger drawn 1 turn away as we see a Schadenports come into play. And now Standstill has just gotten a lot worse.
Yeah,
now it's not really going to do anything.
Right. He had his window to cast it on the second turn there, but that window passed, and now it is likely to be stranded.
So we're going to see an Umezawa's Jit being grabbed with the Stoneforge Mystic by Ben Nash. Interesting to see him getting that instead of Batter Skull, which means the Batter Skull could already be in his hand.
Yes.
He also does have a Sword of Fire and Ice as well in his deck, or in his deck list, excuse me. So every equipment that he can get is backbreaking for a Merfolk player. The thing that makes Batter Skull so nice is because of the vigilance, of course, and the life gain, it makes it so the Merfolk deck can't attack. It can't island walk underneath it because he's mono white. But the Jit on Athalia, it being a first striker, is relatively good as well. So
Yep. All right, so there's a second Lord. That's increasing the toughness of his creatures up to 3, which means that they can now attack into Thalia. Yeah, but what you're seeing right now, like you're describing, would have been a very good argument to go get Batterskull because, I mean, Batterskull's a great blocker next turn. He might not have time to get Jit on a guy.
yeah. So you see a Mother of Runes drawn.
So I assume we're gonna do Mother and Stoneforge out a Jit. Seems like the best. Try to just hold the fort here. It's gonna be rough.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult. He's sliding his cards around. I think his hand is just 2 Seraph Vengers and Umezawa's Jit.
Yep.
So I think Batterskull would have been the better of the 2 options, with Stoneforge Mystic, with Sword of Fire and Ice being the the worst of the 3. We are going to see Lord of Atlantis here.
Yep. So now we've got 3 Lords in play. So we have a 4/4 Curse Catcher, a 5/4 Silvergill. I mean, we just have the troops are marching in here.
And this is something that we just talked about at the top. Like, the guys just become, in Merfolk, they all just become huge.
Yep.
So while he can't island walk with, Master of the Pearl Trine or Lord of Atlantis, this white deck really can't block any of these guys. All the blocks are bad right now.
Yep.
And Mother of Runes is taking too long to get online.
Though if he were, like you said, if he were to have Batterskull here, then he would at least be able to knock out one of the Lords, gain some life, and then untap with Mother of Runes. I mean, then really start to threaten some action.
And now we'll likely see Umezawa should get put into play, but you can just see the difference
Yes.
of getting Jit, which would theoretically eliminate the Merfolks 1 by 1, versus Batterskull, Vigilance, 4/4, and this board of gigantic fish.
Right.
There's just a world of difference
Yep.
between the 2 cards. And we're just going to resolve in combat damage. Ben is going to begin his turn at 3 life with the Mother Runes and Umezawa's Jit. And it looks like we have a Sarah Avenger, 2 Sarah Avengers, a Mangara, and a concession from Ben Nash.
So game 1, just Stoneforge for Jit, just a little bit too slow. And just a density of Lords for enough to just take it down here.
Trivia time.
So, I have a trivia question. In the Death and Taxes list,
Okay.
there's a non-basic land. It's a legendary land from Legends. You often see it, a single copy in some control decks and what have you. This deck, because of its interactions with Mangara of Condor specifically, plays a full playset of this legendary land. Can you name that legendary land? So, tweet that answer to @SCG Premium. The winner, which we'll reveal after the match, will receive 3 free months of Star City Games Premium.
Okay.
So what legendary land from Legends is a full playset is in Ben Nash's deck?
Interacts favorably with Mangara of Horindar. Am I wrong?
Mordor.
English is tough.
I mean that's just a made up word.
Yeah,
that's not
that's true.
That's not even
English.
English.
It's not our fault, man. We can never be wrong.
Right.
Looking at Ben Nash's sideboard really quickly, because he has a down a game, so he'll be playing first. Options. And I've got some. I've got some nice cards here.
He came to play.
Yeah, I've got some cards you would never expect. I don't really see Gutshot doing very much here. Oblivion Ring could be okay to take out like Nick Morehead's Vial, or just killing one of the Lords to shrink them down. Lean and Bola. I don't know if you're expecting that at this weekend's tournament.
Yeah.
But in theory, that could be okay.
I believe that card is it's a 1 mana equipment. It equips for 1, and you can tap it, tap the equipped creature, and remove Lean and Bola to tap target creature.
That's correct.
So it's very good in equipment fights.
That is correct.
Yes.
And limited All-Star as well.
So he has a Bola and a Manriki Gasari.
In addition to another Umezawa's Jeets, which hard to say if it's better than a Sword of Fire and Ice. You can make a swap there, or you can just leave it on the bench. And then a Fiend Hunter, which is basically just going to kill one of the Lords, and then it killing one of the Lords Nick will never be able to get it back.
Right.
So,
I mean, he doesn't have much in the way of creature kill, so Fiend Hunter is basically just a 3-mana kill spell plus a creature he can then put a piece of equipment on or just block with or whatever.
correct.
On the other side of the table, Nick Morehead does not have a lot of cards that he could bring in. He has 2 Hydroblast, 4 Submerge, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Luan, and 2 Tormod Script, all of which are just basically blanks. He has a single Dismember, which is good but not great. He has 2 copies of Pithing Needle, which I believe should come in here. It's a reasonable answer to Stoneforge Mystic or piece of equipment, or Mother of Runes, or Mangara. So there's a bevy of cards for him to shut off with a needle.
Yeah, absolutely. That card should almost certainly come in, and I think it's a quite a good replacement for the 2 Spell Pierces in his main deck, or the 2 Standstills.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that he's going to bring in the Dismember and the 2 Pithing Needles, would be my guess.
I think I would agree with you. If I was in his position, I believe that's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, the Dismember's a little bit rough because it's like, you are still being attacked. I mean, the 4 damage isn't a free roll, but the Pierces and the Standstills, Standstill specifically on the draw being so bad that I think you just need to find a way to cut those cards.
And even in that game we just watched, he had the opportunities to put Standstill into play, and elected not to do that when it may have been at its best. So no real reason. I feel like it's just not really good in this particular matchup at all. Like, he won handily without ever putting Standstill into play when he had the opportunity to do that and elected not to.
Yeah. So again, in the elimination rounds, both players have access to one another's deck lists, so they get to see what's going on. Although it wouldn't surprise me if Nick also needed some Oracle text for some of the weirdos that Ben Nash has in his sideboard.
What, you don't see Leon and Bola at every Legacy tournament?
I see it I saw it once at the Mirrodin Block PT. There was a match next to me where Eugene Harvey was playing for day 2. We were both playing for day 2. And his opponent was Affinity with Lean and Bola. And Eugene was Affinity with Skull Clamp and handily took down the match.
Well, it sounds like you're saying that one of those cards is better than the other.
It's all context. I mean, the Lean and Bola was tapping things. It was doing his thing or whatever.
Okay, and the Skull Clamp was likely giving something +1/-1.
One guy was getting tapped every turn, and Eugene was also killing one of his own guys every turn, so I don't know how he caught up. But he did. Found a way.
As we see, both players are going to be resolving their mulligans here. Ben Nash is going to be on the play with his Death and Taxes deck.
Yeah. All right.
He looks like he's happy to keep his 7. How about Nick?
Nick is not.
Will not.
Takes a little gander to see if he should have kept. Do you peek?
I was going to ask you the same question.
I don't peek.
I always peek.
I never peek.
It never influences my decision. I just always like to. I like to look. I just like to know.
I don't know. It's like there's 53 randomly distributed cards. There's a chance it could be any one of those 53 cards on top. Doesn't really matter to me very much.
It's just like a little game to me, really. I just like to look. Not like a big deal. Doesn't influence my decision in that match or in the future. I just like to take a look to see if the gamble may have been worth it. That's all.
Well, like, what do you mean by may have been? What do you mean by may have been worth it?
Sometimes I like to know. Like, I like to gamble sometimes.
You want to know the alternate reality?
Sure. It doesn't influence my decisions. I just want to know, like, if I would have went down that path, what would have happened? As we're going to see Nick moving down to 5 cards.
What would have happened was you would have drawn a random card, and then the following turn you would have drawn another random card. And
that's true.
Your hand would have been some random composition of cards.
That's correct. I'm fully aware of that.
Okay. I think there's a disconnect here.
I don't think there's a disconnect at all. I think that what I'm doing is perfectly fine. You should not judge a man.
Okay, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that I don't quite understand the logic.
I am being judged.
Well, that's another...
Unjustly.
That is a separate issue. All right, 5 cards.
Ooh. He does not look happy with that keep.
I mean, Merfolk doesn't mulligan to 5 very well.
I would agree. As we see, just a plains go. Mutavault here.
Yep.
I don't think any blue source is there.
Right, and no vial. Oh, good. Free Wasteland win. We got one on the house. And a Rashad port too. That's pretty nice. It's like he doesn't even want to put it into play. He's so embarrassed. He doesn't even want to cast it.
And Thalia. Just passing back. This is going to be quick and painless.
Thalia, for the record, is a combo against an opponent with 0 lands, because then they can't cast any spells.
That is... Yep. If anyone's
can't even cast their Force of Will.
If anyone's wondering why we let Patrick into the booth, it's that kind of insight, ladies and gentlemen, that I could not provide on my own.
It's basically a combo.
So see an Aether Vial drawn here for Ben.
He has a Caracas too. I think he has a Sarah Avenger in his hand. So he can deploy now that it is the 4th turn. Or...
As long as he has the second white source, if it is Caracas.
Yeah, he has a Caracas.
Yep.
Or 5th turn, I suppose, because he wastelanded once.
And to the skies, my beautiful angel.
So you can't force a will. Because Thalia's in play.
We did go over that.
Yeah.
And that Aether Vial is going to cost 1 more because...
Again, the Thalia.
All right. That's going to do it. That's going to do it.
Thanks, Wasteland.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't the Mulligan the 5 that did it. It was Mr. Wasteland who took care of it.
I mean, he might have been able to... Who knows? He could have drawn a vial and then we could have had a game, you know?
Potentially, yes.
That's unlikely. I'm not saying, you know.
I would say that it was more of the Mulligan to 5 than Wasteland stealing him 1, but your mileage may vary.
Right, no. I mean, if we had to break it down into, like, we had to give 100 percentage points and assign them to what caused the game to turn out the way they did, I would assign the Mulligan to 5 a lot of those points.
Okay, like 75% of those
More
points?
than that.
Okay.
More than that.
I just like to know your disperse.
Sure.
How you disperse the 100%. Both players shuffling for game 2. I think...
3.
Excuse me, thank you. Game 3. Nick will be on the play this game, and I think you may agree, Nick, looking for more lands this go around.
Right, yeah, I think so. And it's possible that if he took his standstill out, at least bringing in the second copy becomes more attractive now that he's on the play.
Sure.
Although it still might just be generally bad enough that... But he's got so many, like, kind of mopey cards. Like, Daze isn't very good. Now there's, like, Force of Will's not very good. So...
I mean, I think Daze is perfectly reasonable in the play. Nothing spectacular in the draw, but I think it's all right in the play, especially in combination with Aether Vial. Like its value goes much higher. But I guess like you don't need something. I guess you don't really need something that makes like Aether Vial better because it's already such a good card.
Right.
But I think that Daze's stock rises like a pretty significant amount if you do have an Aether Vial and if you're on the play.
Yeah. I mean, I think the post-board games get a little bit worse for Nick just because he has like nothing of note really to bring in. He's got a couple marginal cards.
Sure.
Whereas Ben actually has real action in his sideboard.
We see both players laying out 7. Nick thinking to himself, can I please just keep a 7-card hand that does something? That is a head shake.
Yeah, I think that looks like they're both good. Yep.
Is he good? Okay. He's got a couple of lands in there. I see 2 Wastelands. I see a Force of Will as well. And we are going to see an Aether Vial here from Ben.
All right.
And that is going to resolve.
He just drew a Spell Pierce, it looks like.
I'm interested that he let that resolve. Reason being is because he fought so heavily over it game 1. Like, he forced it right away. And Nick, again, has a Force of Will and a blue card in his hand.
He kept a pretty... it looked like he kept Force of Will, Lord of Atlantis, 5 lands?
Yes, that's what it looks like to me as well.
So, I don't know, maybe if that's...
So we see a Wasteland here.
You know, maybe if you were just like... that to me reeks of like being a little gun shy after Mulligan of 5.
Yeah.
Because there's just no way that hand's good enough.
We see another Wasteland here from Ben. I'm just really surprised, like, just game 1, like, Ben cast an Aether Vial, it got forced right away, and then this game we have the option to force the Aether Vial again, and we opted not to.
But he only had 2 spells, I think was the problem. I think he still should have forced because it's like, well, if you don't force Aether Vial, you're not going to force anything else for the rest of the game, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
The deck's just all creatures.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I feel like that keep was somewhat motivated by frustration over what happened the previous game.
Sure, I think that definitely influences decision.
To me, that's not even close to a keepable hand.
As we see Stoneform Mystic be put into play via Aether Vial, searching up the Batter Skull, and we're going to dismember here. Okay, so doesn't make it any nearly as bad. Dismember taking care of Stoneforge Mystic, putting Nick down to 16. Just going to leave the Vial on 2. Schadenport's pretty good draw.
Schadenport, yeah. If I were him, I would want to go after his blue mana, because like it's, you know, Merfolk needs to have double blue to be able to cast its stuff.
He's gonna put a Thalia into play.
Like I mean, it sort of depends on a lot of the sort of the specifics of Ben's hand. But of all the non-basics to run out there, when your Merfolk opponent doesn't have Vial in play, it's very important for that. It's hard for them to cast their spells. They need 2 islands.
Sure.
So with Nick on only a single blue, and very likely to wasteland any non-basic that Ben produces because he has nothing else to do. I would have tried a little bit harder, I think, to not expose my Port to that wasteland, because with the Vial on 2 and a Port locking out his blue, he might not be able to cast anything for the whole game. Like the Sarah Avenger might just be enough to take the whole game.
Sure. I don't disagree with you one bit. As we see Sarah Avenger get in here, knocking Nick down to 13. He has a Wasteland for the Horizon Canopy. Okay. He's just going to draw a card.
Yep.
And we are going to put another Thalia into play, keeping the Vial up at 2.
And Ben has, looks like multiple Swords to Plowshares in his hand. I mean, this game is pretty much over.
This is going to be knocking down Nick down to 8, and it's a Vial a little bit late.
Yeah, can't cast that because of Thalia. Hold on, back. Okay, yeah, they caught it. Can't cast that because he's only got 1 land in play.
Indeed. And we have another attack for 5, putting Nick down to 3. One more draw step. This one should be a wrap. As Ben Nash, as we get another island here. The problem, of course, is you do not have a flying blocker for the Sarah Avenger.
And that is a wrap.
There it is. Ben Nash with Death and Taxes moving on to the semifinals.
Yep. You know, games were a little bit weird.